We are continuing on Mesechet Avodah Zarah, and we are on Daf Nun Tet, Amud Aleph, 3 lines from the bottom of the Amud, Ba'o Mineh. Today's Amud is being learned, L'schut, Refuah Shelema of Meir ben Tova, Sarah Rachel Bad Nora, and Rachel Simcha Bad Nahid, that should have full recovery, Refuah Shelema. And today's Amud is also being dedicated for Hatzlacha V'Yigal Ben Devorah. We are in the middle of the discussion, different stories that the Gemara brings in involvement of a goy and a yid together. When you talk about making wine, and here the Gemara is going to ask about hiring a goy to work in your vineyard, in your wine press, whether or not you're allowed to have him, even though that he's not really touching the wine, it's not his involvement. Says the Gemara, Ba'u mineh mirav kana uvet kochavim ha'oshiyuli chanavim legat. What's the halacha for a goy to bring baskets of wine, of grape rather, into your wine press? He's not touching any wine. It's not his job to do it, right? So now the question is, maybe when you have the grapes piled up in a basket and he's carrying them, the movement and the weight, maybe there is some grape juice that squirts out on top of the anavim when he pours it into the gat. Maybe there is something to be concerned about. And says the Gemara, okay, because otherwise, if a goy touches an anava, a little grape, that's nothing. And you could touch as many grapes as he wants. But there is maybe a little chashash over here. Besar Rashi and Tosafot may be a little bit different. But says the Gemara, they ask this question: can you hire a goy to just be the delivery man, bringing the baskets from my vineyard into the wine press? So says the Gemara, Amar Lehu. He said, Rav Kana answered these people, Asur. It's Asur. Why? Not because there's a technicality that's a problem, but because of the same concept that we mentioned before. Just like we tell the Nazir, Lech Lech, Amrina Nazir Aschor Schol Karmalot Tikrav. We tell the Nazir, go round the vineyard. I don't want you to go inside the kerem. Same thing is with the goy. We tell him, Lech Lech. We tell him to go around. Don't enter the kerem at all, because he may end up with a problem, even though that it itself, it may not be an issue. So says the Gemara, wait a second. This is the psak of Rav Kana, but I have a psak that seems not to indicate the same way. Itive, Rav Yemar Rav Kana. Rav Yemar directly asked this question to Rav Kana himself. Ovet kochavim shevi anavim legat. The same exact case. You have a goy that already brought a baskets of grapes into the gat, into the wine press. What's the halacha? Well, you said it's asur to do such a thing. But I have a braita that says that it is actually mutar if this happened. Obet kochavim shevi anavim legat besalin ubedodorin. If he brought them already with this baskets or the barrels that they contain, the containers for grapes, mutar. Even though that the wine maybe went a little bit, squirted the grape juice out a little bit on them beforehand and so on, still is mutar. So this is the question that he asked Rav Kana. But first, Shabraita, not like what you said. Rav Kana says, what are you talking about? That's not my case. I'm telling you, don't do it. Do not go and hire a goy to work in your vineyard, being the delivery man of your grapes to the wine press. You bring me a braita that if it happened already, that the goy brought some baskets of grapes into the wine, of course it's mutar. But the evet, if nothing happened, if he didn't go put his hand into the grape juice and shake it off, or move the wine, or pour, If he didn't do any of those things, he just brought some baskets of grapes, but yeah, but it's mutar. But should you be hiring a person for that as a Oved Kochavim? Absolutely not. So he says, it's not a stira between what I say and this Braita. Says the Gemara, heavy karat. You talking about the B'diavad case that he brought it? Of course that's going to be mutar. Ana lechatchila kamina. I am telling you a psak halacha lechatchila that you should not be dealing with Oved Kochavim in your wine production. Even if you want to appoint him in an area that doesn't have to do with moving the actual wine, the actual grape juice, and putting his hands into anything. But don't do it because of the same concept of lech lech amrinan lenazira schor schor lekarma lo tikrav. We tell the Nazir, do not enter the vineyard. We tell the Goy, do not enter the vineyard. So says the Gemara, Hahu etroga denafa lechabita de chamra. There was an etrog. Last time we had a lulav that touched the wine. Now this time it's turned for etrog, right? It's going through the arba minim here. So there was a situation in which an etrog fell into a wine, and an Oved Kochavim that is watching this in real time sticks his hand as this falls in to grab the etrog inside, preventing it from sinking down to the bottom of the barrel of wine. And over here the Jew is watching it in disbelief as it's happening, and he jumps to take the hand of the goy, and that's this there. Now you have a question. You have a goy, and he frees the picture. You have a goy with his hands inside the wine of a Jew, and the Jew, the petrified Jew, is holding this goy. So it says the Gemara, Idri Oved Kochavim v'shakle. The goy jumped and caught the etrog halfway down the barrel. And now you have a question. Amalehum Rav Ashi. So they froze this situation over here, and they asked the question to Rav Ashi. So what do we do? Because the concern is, if he moves the wine, and we don't know what he had in mind when he moved the wine. We already spoke about the fact that shichshuch is nisuch. You don't have to take the wine and say l'shem yichud and pour it. Even if your hand is inside and you move, you're meshachshech, you shake the wine inside. That is equivalent and tantamount to nisuch, to pouring. So therefore, we don't want him to move his hands over there inside the barrel of wine, being meshachshech the wine, because then you have to come on to what was his kavanah, what was not his kavanah. Now, the wine is already asur b'shitiyah, that's for sure. That we learned already. Even if he touches it with a lulav, right, alidei davar, is asur b'shitiyah, that's the fafalin, that's gone. The question is, we don't want this to become asur ba'ana'ah. As of right now, he may be mutar ba'ana'ah still before he's meshachshech. So Rav Ashi said, that's exactly what you have to do. Hold his hands, naktu aliyadeh, hold his hands, to make sure he's not moving the hand, and somehow manage to empty the top part of the barrel where his hand is in, because we don't want him to bring his hand off. It could be meshachshech at the time, and therefore that's how we're going to go about it. Amar lehu Rav Ashi, naktu aliyadeh, ki hechi delo leshachshech, in order that there should be no shichshuch done, and ubarsua ad shaifa, and you hold it until you are kofeh, you bend and tilt the barrel of wine. Letzad echad, says Rashi, ad sheyishafech yenach letoch keli acher sheimashech hayayin mi'avot kochavim ve'achar kach yotziena. So his hand is freezing inside there, when frozen, not freezing, but it's not moving, and you tilt this until enough wine is out into a different vessel, that now when you tilt back the chavit, there's nothing there in the cavity of the chavit in the upper area, and then the hand could be removed. So that's what he told them to do. And then hopefully it will be still mutar b'hana. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi that we just spoke about says a different halacha. Hay oved kochavim, the nasche lechamra de Yisrael. You have an idol worshipping individual that put his hand inside the barrel of a Jew, and he said his Lashem Yichud for Avodah Zarah of whatever it is that he's serving, and he moved the wine, or he poured the wine of a Jew. Like we're talking about real kavanah lenisuch. He literally wrote a manifesto that I'm doing this for Avodah Zarah. So he did it. Now what's the halacha? Does it become asur? Does it not become asur? Can you charge him? Can you not charge him damages? Is that considered even damages? Right? The Gemara, there's a whole sugya in Shas. It comes up in several places. Mainly, it's a sugya in Mesechet Gitin. The hezek she'eno nikah, shmei hezek olav shmei hezek. If I touch something of yours and a spiritual halachic status causes this not to be usable anymore, but you can't see anything there, right? A truma temeah looks like any other piece of beautiful food. So if I damaged your food by being metameh, by rendering it not usable anymore, does that become now asur? Chametz sha'ar Pesach, right? I forced you into a situation that now your chametz was chametz sha'ar Pesach, asur ba'ana, not worth a penny. The bread's there, beautiful as it was. Right? It's the same $5,000 bottle of scotch. Here, chabot, right? Can you say that that's the damage? It looks good. It's just, so what do you do now? Is that hezek? Is that not hezek? And even though those who say it is hezek is according to most poskim, it perhaps is a isur. It's a rabbinic isur. So says the Gemara, Rav Ashi paskin the following. Amar Rav Ashi, Hay oved kochavim de nasche lechamra de Yisrael. He literally, with kavanah, did nisuch for the wine of the Jew. Bekavanah. Afal gav de lezabune leoved kochavim acharina asur. Even though that this wine now became asur be hana'ah, and you cannot go and sell it to a different goy, you cannot give it as a gift to a different goy, you can't feed it to your animal, you cannot benefit anything from this wine. But you know what you could do? You could take this goy to court and charge him the full amount of the price of this wine. Why? You say, well, you're having harav from it. No, it's not harav, says Rav Ashi. He damaged my property. I don't care about this wine. I could pour it down the toilet, but I had $100 bottle, $1,000 bottle, and now I don't have it. You damaged me, and I'm going to take you to court for the damages that you caused. That you can do. That's not considered having harav from Yain Nesach, because had I not had this bottle anymore, right, it's the same thing. I had something, now I don't have something, and you have to pay for the damages that you caused.
Take to civil court?
You could call any court. Even though that you cannot sell it, but it's mutar to charge its value from that goy who did these damages, because those are halachot of hezek, of damages. Now again, we have to get into the nitty-gritties of hezek she'eno nikah. Yes, no, because the wine looks the same exact wine that it was, but lemaseh for a goy in this case, says Rav Ashi, you could do it. Says the Gemara, my tama, why? Because mikla kalye, he destroyed, he burnt my property. It's equivalent of him completely dismantling, burning down my property. If someone would burn down someone's property, he has to pay. So it's not a matter of, if you burn something down, you're not having hana'ah from the burnt down thing. It's not a question of hana'ah from the wine. It's a question of you damaged my property. I had it and I don't have it. You have to pay me for that destruction. So says the Gemara, Amar Rav Ashi, how do I know this? Let me bring you the Saberet HaOzen. Let me explain to you a case that would indicate the same halacha. The Tanya, we learned in the Braita. Ovet kochavim shenisech yeno shel Yisrael shelo bifnei avodat kochavim. If a goy poured the wine of a Jew, an idol worshipping individual, took the wine of a Yid and poured it, but not in front of the avodat kochavim. You remember before we had this whole discussion of when a goy breaks something or cuts something, but not in front of the avodat kochavim, whether or not it's considered a derech avodah, whether it's not considered derech avodah. Remember that? We spoke about, we alluded a little bit of a off tangent to the whole controversy of Indian hair and so on and so forth. What happens in the actual Hindu temples? Is it in front of avodat kochavim? Is it not in front of avodat kochavim? So here, if somebody did nisuch, but not in front of the avodat kochavim, so says the Braita, asur, still asur. But then there are two Tanaim, Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava and Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera, matirin. They say it's mutar. Why? Two reasons. Says the Gemara, A, mishum shne dvarim. Two reasons. Echad she'en menaschin yayin ela bifnei avodat kochavim. A, because nisuch is done in front of the avodat kochavim. When you are in Yehopetzville and you pour some wine on top of a mountain, it's like when you're in front of the avodat kochavim and you do it, that's derech avodah. If you're not in front of, it's not the way of. Even though that this guy actually did it, he defied the norm, and he literally took the wine and said, "I'm doing this for the Avodah Zarah that's not here," and he poured it. But the goyim do not do that. The Avodah Zarah do not do that, and therefore his dat is batel, is not considered that he did a proper nisuch. So hence that does not make it asur. And additionally, says the Gemara, ve'echad, and the second reason is sheomer lo, the Yid tells this idol worshipper, lo kol hemenach she'te'esor yeni leonsi. You cannot prohibit my property on me. This is mine. This is my wine. I don't allow you to do things of avodah zarah with it. So therefore, you cannot. En adam oser davar she'eno shelo. So bishlama, if you would do it in front of the avodat kochavim, it would be literally a service to the avodah zarah, like shechting. We already spoke about this before from the Gemara in Zvachim, in Yerushalmi, or the Ravad, that when you actually do something to it with maaseh, a person could aser something that's not his. You remember that? We discussed this, that through maaseh, if you just bow to something that's not yours, of course you cannot make it asur. But if you took it and did something with it, that's already a different story. So is that considered maaseh? Is that not considered maaseh? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera, Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava, they both held that in this case, that you're not in front of the statue of Avodah Zarah, it would be rather mutar, because you could tell him, you cannot touch my property and make it asur on me, because that's not considered any maaseh in that sense. So says the Gemara, therefore, even though that we paskin like Chachamim perhaps, keneged Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava, Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera, but we could use their kula, their leniency, to say that we could charge at least this goy for the damages that he used. Now, according to the second reason that Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava said, you could tell him, well, you can't answer it's my property, you ask to do damage, you have to pay. You can't do that. But really, again, based on different Rishonim, would come out a little bit slightly different how to learn this Gemara. But you certainly could use this as an additional svara, even though that you don't paskin like it, to say that at least you have to pay the damages, and that payment that I get, it will be mutar for me to charge from the same goy that did nisuch on my wine. So says the Gemara, "Hau chavita," another story, it's full of stories, the Gemara. "Hau chavita de chamra, de ishtaki lebarza." There was a barrel of wine that the faucet of it was taken off. Right? So you had usually a spout from the barrel. It was not necessarily that you poured it, it was like the urns that you have nowadays. So now it was in the bottom, but there was a spout somewhere that you would tilt it, and even if it was lower than that level, you would tilt the barrel and the wine would come out. So there was a chavit that the spout broke. Now the wine is going to seep out and leaking out, losing the wine. A goy sees this and he wants to help the situation. So Ata Oved Kochavim, this Oved Avodah Zarah comes. Idri Anach Yadeh Ilave. He jumped, this Oved Kochavim, seeing that the wine is being wasted, and he stuck his hand on it to stop the leakage, the waste of wine, not knowing that now he got himself into the Gemara with this story, right? So, says the Gemara, what's the halacha? Alach yadei lave. Amar Rav Papa said, Kol delade barza chamra asir, ve'idach shari. So Rav Papa said, the flow of wine that is around in the area, same level as the whole of the spout of wine, that is asur b'shtia. That's asur to drink, right? But not b'hana. Hana is still mutar because there's no shichshuch. He can't move anything. He just put his hand there. It's steady. Can't move the wine. The wine may be stopped by his hand, by his skin, but he cannot really move the wine. So therefore, it's not asur b'hana'ah, right? It becomes asur b'shitiyah because he touched that level, and the rest of it, the rest of the bottle, the barrel that's lower than the level of the nekev of the whole of the spout of this barrel is even mutar b'shitiyah, said Rav Papa. Veidach shari, and says Rashi, if they take a look at the top Rashi, why is it mutar b'shtia, the rest of the barrel? The kasavar sedadin lav chibur liaser kol hayayin. Says this is not considered that they're attached, that once it touches the goy's hand, the entire thing becomes asur. Rav Papa held that stadin, the sides are not considered all attached as one unit, and therefore whatever was there, it's asur. Whatever was touching his hand is asur. You pour that out and you sell it to a goy, and the rest of it you could drink it gesund rehet. Right? So it says, but of course the halacha is not like this, right? Because Rashi himself says, Ta'amuki Rav Yemar Milta Rav Papa Ketanai, because the Gemara is going to make this a machloket Tanaim, and Rav Papa is going to end up being aligned with the Shita of Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yehuda is a Shita Yechida. It's going to be a Dat Yachid, one single person keneged, everybody else, and Yachid v'Rabim, Halacha keRabim. Therefore, Halacha is not like Rabbi Yehuda, and therefore Halacha is not like this psak of Rav Papa. Right? It's not to get confused over here, but that's the psak that he gave. So says the Gemara, in other words, according to Chachamim, the whole thing would be asur b'shitiyah, mutar b'hana'ah, because not considered shichshuch. So says the Gemara, Veika da'amri, that's one way of saying this story. But there are those who say, Amar Papa, ad habarza chamra asir. Says, Papa said, the wine that you have, all of it that is above the nekev is asur, because all of it is going to be nimshach to the through the spout going out. It's all considered asur. Havale chibur ve'asur, and therefore says the Rav Papa that all of that wine is going to be asur. And now Rav Yemar is going to explain what exactly is the shita of Rav Papa when you examine it with the Tanaim, as we mentioned before, is going to become Machloket Chachamim and Rav Yehuda, which Halacha, of course, not going to become like Rav Yehuda and like Chachamim, and we'll explain also what are the exact differences between the first way of saying over Rav Papa and the second way of saying Rav Papa in the Shiurim to come Be'ezrat Hashem. Chazak u'Baruch.